Greetings, my friends. There's always a lesson in our stories. Today we say, cheap things often come with no blessing, only struggle and pain. That's the wisdom and moral behind today's story, which shows us how sometimes a bargain can actually be a doorway to a hidden curse. So, get yourself comfortable, find a quiet spot, grab a cup of strong coffee, and let's dive into the story. We all know, my friends, that spirits and demons can dwell in many places. We often hear about haunted houses or haunted rooms. But what many don't realize is that spirits don't always need an entire house to dwell in. Sometimes they can attach themselves to objects, even the simplest things like an old book, an old phone, or, in this case, a piece of furniture. Yes, tonight's story is about a demon bound to an old wardrobe, and I believe this might be the first time you hear something like this. It all begins with James, a young man who had just rented a small apartment. He loved antique furniture, items that carried history and stories. He thought to himself, I need something that adds character to my place. While browsing online, he came across an ad for antique furniture. He decided to visit the seller, an old retired carpenter, looking simple and modest. That's when James saw it. A massive wooden wardrobe, handcrafted, covered in beautiful carvings, elegant and majestic. He asked for the price. The old man looked at him and said, "Take it for just $100." James couldn't believe it. A wardrobe like this is worth so much more, and he's selling it for just $100? This is the deal of the century. Without hesitation, James paid the man, hired a few people to move it into his apartment, and that's when his life started to unravel. The wardrobe stood in James's bedroom. From the very first night, he began to notice strange things. An unusual chill filled the apartment, even though it was summer. A faint scent of incense mixed with mold, like the remnants of some old ritual, spread through the room. At night, James could never sleep peacefully. He started hearing light tapping sounds coming from the wardrobe, as if someone was scratching the wood from the inside or breathing heavily. One night, he woke up to a loud bang. The wardrobe doors were wide open, staring back at him with pitch-black darkness. He thought maybe he had left them open by accident, so he shut them tight. But the nights that followed were worse. He began hearing soft weeping, the faint sobs of a young woman crying from inside the wardrobe. The sound was so chilling, his blood froze. Every time he approached the wardrobe, the crying stopped. James thought he was losing his mind. Am I imagining this, or is something really in there? The worst moment came when he tried to open the wardrobe one night, flashlight in hand. As soon as he touched the handle, a hot gust of air burst out from inside, shoving him backwards. Terrified, James ran out of the apartment. James realized this wardrobe carried a dark secret. Determined to uncover it, he grabbed a screwdriver and inspected the carvings. That's when he discovered a hidden drawer on the side. Inside was nothing but a faded old photograph of a young bride. She was beautiful, but her eyes looked sad, almost terrified. Confused, James went to his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, who had lived in the area for decades. The moment she saw the photo, her face turned pale. She whispered, "James, that wardrobe brings nothing but misfortune. It once belonged to a young bride named Emily. On her wedding night, a fire broke out in this very neighborhood. Emily, panicked, hid inside that wardrobe and never made it out. She suffocated inside, and her spirit has been trapped there ever since. The first owner who bought it couldn't bear the haunting and sold it to the carpenter you met, just to get rid of the curse. James was shocked. He finally understood where the crying, the whispers, and the strange energy were coming from. Later, when James confronted the carpenter, the old man broke down in tears. He admitted the wardrobe had drained him. His money disappeared, his sleep was destroyed, and his health collapsed. Selling it cheap was his only way to escape the curse. James, however, refused to destroy the wardrobe or pass the curse to another family. He had a good heart. So he sought help from a priest known for dealing with such matters. As James recounted the story, the priest suddenly stopped him and said, "My son, I can sense a very old, heavy presence tied to that piece of furniture. This is not just a spirit. This is something that has been bound to it. That wardrobe must be purified completely." The priest instructed him to pray daily, to let Scripture play continuously in his home for 3 days, and to sprinkle holy water across the wardrobe while remaining calm, without fear. When James returned home and began the cleansing ritual, the true battle began. The moment the holy water touched the wardrobe and Scripture echoed in the room, the wardrobe shook violently. The incense-like smell returned stronger than ever. James felt dizzy, as if the room itself was spinning. Then suddenly a wave of cold swept past him, and it was as if a dark shadow rushed out of the wardrobe and fled the apartment. From that moment, the noises stopped. The chill was gone. The strange scent vanished. Peace returned to his home. James kept the wardrobe. It no longer frightened him. Instead, it became a symbol of his faith and resilience. 3 months later, late at night, James opened the wardrobe. Its doors creaked with a loud, heavy sound, almost like labored breathing. The fear returned for a moment, but this time James stood his ground. He placed his hand on the door and calmly recited a prayer. Immediately, the creaking stopped. Instead of coldness, a strange warmth spread from the wardrobe, peaceful and calm. It was the final test. James had overcome it. From that day on, James never experienced another problem with the wardrobe. In fact, he began to treasure it. What once was a cursed object had transformed into a blessed possession. His bargain, which he thought was a curse, became the best deal of his life, not because of the wardrobe itself, but because it showed him the true power of faith.